The courtroom froze as she staggered in, clutching her neck like every breath was agony. Cameras shifted. Jurors leaned forward. Judge Judy didn't move except for her eyes. They narrowed, sharp and surgical, cutting straight through the performance. The woman had fooled insurance companies and milked sympathy for thousands. But she made one fatal mistake, underestimating the woman on the bench. And with a single question, Judge Judy didn't just expose the act. She uncovered a scheme far bigger than anyone in that courtroom expected. But before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The echo of her strained breathing still clings to the air as she crosses the threshold. Judge Judy does not blink. She only tilts her head, just enough to let everyone know something is off. She drags each step as if gravity itself is punishing her, one hand wrapped around her neck like it is the only thing keeping her upright. The cameras track her, lenses whirring softly, capturing every calculated falter. A hush settles over the room, not the respectful kind, the curious kind. The kind that asks quietly but undeniably, is this real? The plaintiff, Michael, the mechanic she accused of destroying her life, stands rigid, shoulders squared, jaw tight. His eyes do not soften at her display. If anything, they grow sadder, heavier, as though he is watching a performance he has already seen too many times. She reaches the plaintiff's table and lowers herself into the chair with exaggerated caution, a slow-motion descent that would impress a theater director. But the moment she thinks no one is watching, the act slips, her posture straightens too quickly. Her hand falls away from her neck with suspicious ease. And then she remembers. The hand snaps back up. The wince returns. The audience notices. A few shift. One murmurs. Judge Judy does not. She sits in perfect stillness, the authority of the bench radiating like a cold light. Only her eyes move, sharp and surgical, dissecting every inconsistency in the woman's breathing, the tilt of her head, the tremble that appears only when someone is looking. "Good morning," Judy says, voice level, no warmth, no hostility. Just clarity, a clarity the woman cannot hide from. The defendant responds with a strained whisper, clutching her throat as if sound itself hurts. But the whisper is too controlled, too polished, a performance trying to feel unperformed. Judge Judy leans forward a fraction, elbows not quite touching the bench, studying her posture. The silence stretches, long enough for the woman to feel it pressing against her skin. Michael glances at Judy, then at the defendant, then down at his hands. He rubs the grease-stained knuckle no amount of scrubbing has ever cleaned. He looks like a man exhausted not by a legal battle, but by an unending lie. Judy finally breaks the quiet. "You claim this injury has made daily life impossible," she says. "Yet you walked in here without assistance." The woman stiffens. Her eyes glisten, not with tears but with calculation. "I pushed through the pain," she whispers. Judy does not respond. Instead, she reaches for the folder sitting atop her desk. The bailiff sets another beside it, a thicker one, its edges worn, corners creased, weight unmistakable. The woman watches the folders like they are explosives. The thicker one slides forward under Judy's hand. It lands with a soft, heavy thud, evidence she thought had vanished forever, and Judy opens it without looking away from her face. The sound of the folder opening is too soft to echo, yet somehow it does. Every eye in the courtroom follows the motion like a slow blade being drawn. Judge Judy lifts the first page with deliberate precision. No rush, no wasted movement. The defendant's breath catches in her throat, the first honest sound she has made since entering the room. Her fingers curl inward on her lap, nails pressing crescents into her skin. "This," Judy begins, tapping the page, "is your insurance claim." The woman nods with a trembling so rehearsed it borders on choreography. "Yes, Your Honor, the injury." Judy raises a finger, not to silence her but to measure her. The woman's words die on their own. The judge reads aloud, voice even, devoid of sympathy or accusation. severe cervical sprain, daily debilitating pain, limited mobility, unable to perform basic tasks. The woman nods along in exaggerated misery, adjusting her posture as though sitting upright contradicts her narrative. But Judy is watching her too closely for that. Michael, the plaintiff, shifts his weight. His face tightens at the word severe, a tension Judy does not miss. She flips to the next page. Interesting. The date of injury reported here, she pauses, letting the ink speak before she does not match the date you provided to this court. A ripple moves through the audience like a breeze over still water. The defendant blinks hard. I must have been confused when illing it out. I was in so much pain. Judy lowers the page and stares at her over the rim. Pain does not change dates. The woman's lips part, then close. Her eyes dart toward Michael, as if searching for a lifeline she already burned. Michael clears his throat. Your Honor, there's something else. Judy nods for him to continue. I gave my dashcam footage to the insurance company the day it happened. They said they'd review it. Then, he hesitates, frustration simmering beneath his calm exterior. It disappeared. The defendant stiffens, her jaw locks, a flicker fear, anger, recognition, crosses her face before she reignites the performance, lifting a hand slowly to her neck as if the conversation itself hurts her. Judge Judy does not look at her. She watches Michael instead. And you have a copy of that footage. Michael nods, his voice steady now. Yes, I kept one. The woman swallows. The sound seems loud in the tightening silence. Judy gestures toward the bailiff. Bring in the dashcam USB. The defendant's eyes widen. Not dramatically this time, not with flair, but with something raw and unscripted. Real fear. The kind that does not rehearse well. As the bailiff steps forward, Judy taps the folder once soft, deliberate. The truth has a way of resurfacing, she murmurs. The woman's grip on her neck falters. The performance finally cracks. The bailiff approaches with the USB resting in his palm like a piece of evidence too fragile to blink at. The courtroom tightens, breath by breath, as though everyone senses the performance is about to meet its first real mirror. Judge Judy gestures toward the monitor. Play it. The lights dim just enough for the screen's glow to wash over the woman's face. She tries to look away, but curiosity, or fear, pulls her eyes forward. The camera zooms in on her expression without needing to move at all. The footage begins with a shaky image of a quiet parking lot. Michael's truck pulls in smoothly. A pole stands at the corner of the frame. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic, just life, unbothered and unbroken. Then her car rolls in behind him. Not fast, not reckless, just enough. She taps the pole, lightly, a whisper of contact. A murmur ripples through the courtroom, soft but disbelieving. The kind of sound people make when they realize a truth they were not prepared to accept. On the screen, the woman steps out of the car. No limp, no hand to her neck. She walks a few paces, scrolling on her phone, laughing at something unseen. Her posture is fluid, effortless. A stark contrast to the trembling, fragile figure sitting in front of Judy now. The audience shifts, the tension rising like a swell beneath the carpet. Then she sees the camera. And in real time, on video, her entire body language changes. She straightens, hesitates, glances around to ensure she is being watched. Only after confirming the lens is pointed her way does she begin to rub her neck, slow and deliberate, like she is preparing for a spotlight. In the courtroom, her hands clench around the edge of her table. Judy's eyes flick from the monitor to the woman and back again, absorbing every inconsistency with surgical attention. On the footage, the woman bends, retrieves her purse, lifts it without strain, and walks to her car with an ease that betrays every word on her insurance claim. Then 40 seconds later, she looks back at the camera and tilts her head as if remembering the storyline she was supposed to follow. Her hand flies to her neck. Her steps become shaky, dramatic, over-enunciated. The courtroom gasps again, louder this time. Judy leans forward, elbows resting on the bench. Her voice cuts clean through the stillness. "So your pain," she says quietly, "began only after you noticed the camera." The defendant opens her mouth, but no words form. Her breath falters, caught between denial and the weight of proof. Michael's shoulders drop just slightly, relief mixing with the ache of months of accusation. Judy nods toward the bailiff. "Bring up the second clip." The defendant jerks her head toward the judge, eyes wide with something she can no longer disguise. Real panic. The monitor goes black for a beat, long enough to thicken the air, before the next file loads. Judy folds her hands. "Let us see what you were doing before that camera turned on." The monitor flickers alive again, its cold blue light washing over the defendant's face. She stops breathing for half a second, long enough for everyone to notice. The video begins with no dramatic crash, no chaos, just stillness. An empty parking lot, a quiet morning, a camera waiting like an unblinking witness. The woman's car sits parked neatly in frame, engine off, door slightly ajar. Then she steps into view. Not injured, not fragile. Normal. Her stride is steady, confident, even. She walks past the bumper, checks her reflection in the window, smooths her hair, adjusts her jacket. Every movement carries intention, not pain. The courtroom murmurs, even the bailiff tilts his head. She glances toward the corner where she knows the camera usually points, then moves back into frame, positioning herself carefully. She looks around again, making sure no one is watching. Judge Judy watches too. Her expression tightens, not in shock but confirmation. On the screen, the woman lifts her shoulders, rolls her neck once, twice, as though warming up for a performance. Then she takes 3 slow steps backward, eyes darting between her car and the camera. She exhales and begins the stumble. A clumsy, exaggerated wobble, one hand flying to her neck with theatrical precision. She rehearses it once, twice, returning to her starting position after each attempt like an actor dissatisfied with her take. In the courtroom, the defendant presses her nails deeper into her palms. The audience sucks in a collective breath. No one speaks. They do not need to. The truth is loud enough. The camera pans in slightly, capturing each artificial falter, each exaggerated wince, each calculated glance toward the lens. Judge Judy shifts forward just a fraction. "This," she says softly, "is what you described as a sudden onset neck injury." The woman's voice breaks into fragments. I was disoriented. I did not realize." "Disoriented," Judy repeats. "You rehearsed your injury like someone preparing a monologue." The defendant's mouth opens, but panic strangles whatever excuse she reached for. Her eyes gloss, not with tears but with the collapse of control. The performance she constructed so meticulously now crumbles under the weight of a single camera angle. Michael's jaw tightens. He looks away, not in triumph, but in weary recognition of a truth he has lived with too long. Judy taps her nails against the bench, slow and deliberate, letting the rhythm punctuate the lie sitting in front of her. "I have seen exaggeration," she says. "I have seen panic, I have seen confusion, but this," she gestures to the screen, "this is planning." The defendant trembles, not dramatically now, not for show. This shake is real, the kind that arrives when a lie finally loses oxygen. Judy nods to the bailiff. "Pause it." The screen freezes on the image of the woman mid-stumble, her eyes fixed on the camera she believed would help sell her story. Judy lifts a second folder, thicker, sealed, heavier with truth. "Then perhaps," she says, voice cooling like steel, "you can explain this report." The report hits the bench with a soft, dense thud, quiet enough to sound harmless, heavy enough to feel like a verdict waiting to be spoken. Judge Judy slides the document toward the edge of the bench. The woman's eyes lock onto it, pupils shrinking, breath quickening. This is not the reaction of someone surprised. It is the reaction of someone cornered. This, Judy says, tapping the cover, is your physical therapy attendance log. The defendant nods too quickly, too eagerly, like someone trying to agree with a truth she has not heard yet. Judy flips the first page. The courtroom watches the paper lift, hover, then settle again. She reads silently at first, scanning, eyes narrowing by degrees so subtle but so lethal. Then she speaks. You billed for 12 sessions. The woman swallows, hard. Judy turns the page, her voice slicing clean through the manufactured air of frailty. You attended 0. A ripple of disbelief radiates through the courtroom, shoulders shifting, whispers dying as fast as they begin. The defendant's mouth drops open, but no sound escapes. She lifts a hand to her neck again, but this time the gesture is shaky, exposed, almost pathetic. I tried, she whispers. They rescheduled, they messed up. Do not blame imaginary clerical errors, Judy replies, her tone colder than the fluorescent lights overhead. You never checked in, not once. Michael exhales sharply through his nose, the kind of breath someone releases when a truth they have been carrying finally finds its voice. He steps forward, not close enough to threaten, but close enough for his presence to be felt. Your Honor, he says quietly, she told everyone in town her therapy bills were drowning her. She demanded I take responsibility for her pain. Judy studies him for a beat, her gaze softening at the edges. And did she provide you proof of her treatment at the time? Michael shakes his head. Just stories, lots of stories. The defendant snaps. You ruined my life. I could not work. I was suffering. Suffering? Judy repeats, tilting her head. You had time to rehearse for cameras, file false claims, and stalk this man's business, but not attend a single appointment meant to heal you. The woman's jaw trembles. Her eyes dart, searching for an escape hatch in a courtroom built to hold truth. Judge Judy closes the report with a finality that hangs in the air. This is not confusion, she says quietly. This is a pattern. A pattern built on lies. A pattern built on exploitation. A pattern finally unraveling under the fluorescent lights in the PR. Escher of a judge who has seen arrogance in every disguise. The defendant's breathing turns shallow. The facade is slipping faster now, her voice smaller, her hands unsteady, her eyes glossy with the kind of fear that does not need acting lessons. Judy leans forward, elbows resting on the bench. Tell me, she asks, voice calm but ironclad. Why were you collecting benefits for treatments you never received? The woman opens her mouth. But no answer comes. Silence clings to the courtroom like humidity, thick, inescapable, suffocating. And in that silence, her performance finally begins to betray her. The defendant's lips part, but the words do not come, not even a lie. Her breath stutters, hitching in uneven bursts as though the weight of reality is pressing against her chest. Her hand slips from her neck, not dramatically, just momentarily. And for the first time since she entered the room, she forgets to pretend. Judge Judy notices immediately. Answer the question, she says, voice calm, cool, almost gentle. The kind of gentle that makes truth unavoidable. The woman's eyes flick to the audience, searching for sympathy, but all she finds are faces carved in quiet disbelief. A mother clutching her purse tighter, a young man shaking his head slowly. Even the bailiff's expression, usually unreadable, has edged into something close to disappointment. Her throat tightens. I was overwhelmed. Everything was happening so fast I could not keep up. Judy tilts her head. But you kept filing claims. The woman blinks rapidly, a frantic flutter of lashes. Because I needed help. She jabs a trembling finger toward Michael. He ruined everything. My job, my finances, my reputation, Michael interrupts softly. Not loud, not accusatory, just worn down. You told customers that I injured you on purpose. You showed up at my shop crying. You filmed my employees. The woman flinches, not from pain, from exposure. You do not understand, she whispers. People only listen when I am. Hurt, Judy finishes for her. Is that the word you are reaching for? The woman's face twists, denial and confession tangled into one fragile expression. Her posture folds inward, shoulders curved, elbows tight to her sides. She looks smaller now. Not weaker, but smaller, like the spotlight she once craved has grown too hot to stand in. Judy's eyes narrow with something sharper than judgment, clarity. You have created injury when you needed attention. You have created trauma when you wanted leverage. And you have created a villain when the truth stopped serving your narrative. The woman's breath shudders. Her eyes brim, not with theatrical tears this time, but with the dawning realization that her story is collapsing around her. Michael rubs his hands together, anxiety and relief warring silently on his face. Judy's voice softens, not mercy but certainty. This is not about pain, this is about power. A single tear slips down the woman's cheek. She does not wipe it. The audience shifts again, the mood tilting from anger to uneasy sympathy, as if witnessing the unraveling of someone who has never learned to live without pretending. Judy leans back, and since you refuse to answer, perhaps the investigator will. The woman's head jerks up. The what? The side door opens. Footsteps echo softly as a man enters with a clipboard tucked beneath his arm. Judy's gaze stays locked on the defendant. Did you forget the investigator? If you were sitting in that courtroom, would you speak up or stay silent as her story unraveled? The door closes behind him with a soft click, but the sound lands like a gavel strike. The defendant's spine stiffens. Her hands clasp together, knuckles whitening, an instinctive brace against the truth walking toward her. The investigator moves with quiet confidence, each step measured, every detail about him controlled. He carries a clipboard under his arm, not dramatic, not threatening, but powerful in its simplicity. The kind of object that ends stories, not begins them. Judge Judy nods. State your name for the record. Daniel Mercer, he says. His voice is calm, steady. Lead field investigator, Crestline Insurance. The defendant's face drains of color. There is no performance in that reaction. No theatrics, just fear, raw, unedited fear. Judy gestures lightly. Tell us what you found. Mercer opens the clipboard. Papers rustle, a soft whisper that somehow makes the woman flinch. He keeps his tone level, unemotional. That is what makes his words cut deeper. During the 3-week observation period, he begins, the claimant, he nods toward the defendant, engaged in multiple physical activities inconsistent with her reported injury. The woman jerks forward. You followed me, you stalked me. Mercer does not even look at her. All surveillance was conducted with full legal authorization, and he flips the page, documented. Judy watches the defendant's reaction more closely than the report. Itself, the tremor in her hands, the nervous swallow, the way her eyes dart toward the exit before snapping back. Mercer continues. I observed her lifting grocery bags into her car, reaching overhead for bulk items, bending without hesitation. He turns another page. She also attended a beginner dance class at the community center. A wave of murmurs spreads through the courtroom. Someone exhales sharply. Even Michael glances sideways at the defendant, his confusion tinged with disbelief. The woman's voice rises, thin and stretched. I was trying to stay active. Movement is good for healing, my therapist said. You never saw a therapist, Judy cuts in, voice calm but immovable. And you did not attend a single session you billed for. The woman goes silent, mouth trembling around a lie that never forms. Mercer resumes reading. On 3 occasions she was seen jogging short distances. No visible discomfort, no restricted mobility, no protective neck brace. The defendant's eyes shine with panic. I was testing myself. I needed to know my limits. Judy leans forward. Your limit seems to be honesty. The woman's breath breaks. Her hands fly to her neck again, not out of pain but habit. A mask slipping back into place, but too late. Everyone has seen the face beneath. Mercer lowers the clipboard. There is more. The defendant shuts her eyes. Michael's jaw tightens. The courtroom leans in. Judy gestures, go on. Mercer reaches into his folder and slides a small printed photograph across the bench. Judy picks it up, studies it, then looks at the defendant with a gaze that chills the air. This, she says slowly, was left on the plaintiff's car. The defendant's entire body freezes, not like an actor caught off cue, but like someone who realizes the script is no longer hers to control. Michael stares at the photo in Judge Judy's hand, his jaw tightening with a quiet anger the courtroom has not yet seen from him. Judge Judy lifts the photograph just high enough for the defendant to see. A printed sheet of paper taped to a car windshield. 5 bold black words, each one sharp enough to cut through the courtroom's breath. Settle or suffer. The defendant's eyes widen, not in confusion but in recognition. A flicker so small most people might miss it. Judy does not. She places the photo flat on the bench. This was found on the plaintiff's car, she says, her voice steady as a held blade. Outside his shop, early morning, before customers arrived. Michael inhales slowly, the memory tightening across his shoulders. I came out to load a part into a customer's trunk, he says, and this was waiting for me. The courtroom reacts, a low murmur, a shifting of weight, the sound of disbelief spreading like a tremor. The defendant shakes her head rapidly. That is not mine. I do not threaten people. He is lying. No, Michael replies softly. You were angry. You told my customers I injured you for fun. You told my neighbors I was hiding something. His voice tightens. This was the next step. The woman stares at the photograph as though it might rewrite itself if she looks hard enough. It must have been a prank, someone trying to stir things up. Mercer, the investigator, clears his throat. The handwriting matches the intake form she filled out for her insurance claim. He slides another paper forward, side-by-side samples. The match is undeniable. The defendant's breath catches. The panic that had been creeping around her edges now closes in completely, tightening like a vice. Judge Judy's gaze sharpens. You fabricated injuries. You falsified treatments. You harassed this man's business. And now we have a written threat connected directly to you. It is not a threat, she bursts out, voice cracking. It was just to get his attention. Judy's expression changes, not to anger but something colder. Attention, she repeats. You are confused. This is coercion. She taps the words on the paper slowly, deliberately. This is intimidation. This is extortion. The defendant shakes her head violently, hands trembling. You are twisting everything. I just needed him to listen. No one listens unless something is wrong, unless I am hurting. For a moment, the vulnerability in her voice is so raw that even the audience stills. Not out of sympathy, but out of the strange, sad clarity that comes when a lie reveals the wound beneath it. Judy studies her, eyes softening only enough to acknowledge the humanity unraveling in front of her. Pain, she says quietly, is not a strategy. The woman looks down, shoulders folding inward. Michael exhales, the weight of months settling deeper into his spine. Judy reaches for a sealed envelope that has been sitting untouched until now. Her fingers rest on it with unmistakable purpose. Because this, Judy says, sliding the envelope forward, is what changes everything. The envelope sits between Judge Judy's fingers like a threat wrapped in paper. The defendant stares at it, as if it might detonate. Judy does not open it right away. She just studies the woman, really studies her, letting the silence expand until even the courtroom's fluorescent lights seem to hum quieter. The defendant's breathing grows shallow. A single bead of sweat forms at her temple, sliding down with the slow inevitability of truth. Finally, Judy breaks the seal. The tier of paper is almost delicate, almost merciful. But what rests inside is anything but. She removes a single sheet, official letterhead, crisp and clinical, and lays it flat on the bench. Her eyes skim the first lines and something shifts in her expression. Not shock, not surprise, confirmation. "This," Judy begins, voice steady, "is a denial letter from your insurance provider." The defendant blinks rapidly. "Denial." "Dated 6 weeks ago," Judy continues, her tone dropping into a sharper register. "You were informed they reviewed your claim and found clear evidence of exaggeration, inconsistencies in reported symptoms, and probable fraud." A gasp ripples through the courtroom, soft, sharp, collective. The woman shakes her head, hands trembling. No, I never received that. They never sent me." Judy slides the letter forward. "It was delivered to your home, signed for." The defendant freezes, completely. The audience feels it, the way her world stops on a single sentence, the way denial collapses when faced with proof she cannot outrun. Michael inhales slowly, his frustration melting into something heavier, something closer to sorrow. Judy continues, "And yet, instead of accepting the denial, you filed this lawsuit. You escalated your claims. You harassed this man's business. You attempted to coerce him into settling." The defendant's voice fractures. I needed help. I was desperate. I thought if he just admitted." "Admitted what?" Judy asks sharply. "A fault he did not cause, pain you rehearsed, trauma you manufactured." The woman covers her face with both hands. Her shoulders tremble, not theatrically this time, but with the weight of exposure settling into her bones. Michael steps forward, his voice low but resolute. "Your Honor, all of this, got worse after the denial. She showed up outside my house. She filmed my customers. She told people I was hiding something." Judy absorbs his words in absolute stillness. Then she turns back to the woman. "You knew your claim was rejected," she says slowly, "and instead of stopping, you doubled down." The woman lowers her hands. Her eyes are red. "I did not know what else to do." Judy's voice softens, not forgiving, but understanding something deeper. "You chose deception over truth." The defendant's breath catches, as though the words themselves cut. Judy folds the denial letter once, neatly, deliberately. "Tell me," she asks, eyes locking onto the defendant's trembling ones. "What exactly were you planning once the insurance money did not come through?" Her mouth opens before her mind does, and the first word she speaks already feels like the wrong one. The courtroom senses it, that frantic scramble to outrun a truth gaining on her faster than she can think. I was confused," she stammers, fingers twisting together as though trying to braid a lie into something believable. "Everything happened so quickly, I could not remember all the dates." Judge Judy does not blink. "Dates are facts," she says. "Confusion does not rewrite them." The woman swallows hard, nodding too quickly, then shaking her head, then nodding again. Her voice cracks. "Maybe the letter came and I overlooked it. I was overwhelmed. Bills piling up, people judging me, pain getting worse." "Which pain?" Judy interrupts, her tone sharp but calm. "The one that disappears when you think no one is watching, or the one that returns the moment a camera points in your direction?" The defendant's breath catches. Her eyes dart wildly, as if looking for a script she misplaced. She tries again. "I mean, the pain fluctuates. Some days it is better, some days worse, and the day of the accident." Judy lifts a hand. "You did not have an accident, you tapped a pole." Her voice slices the air with clean precision. "And according to your own insurance report, you were incapacitated immediately. But in the video," she gestures toward the screen, "you were laughing." The woman's face tightens. I laugh when I am nervous. You jog when you are healing, Judy asks. The defendant freezes, lips parting without sound. Mercer, the investigator, watches her quietly. His presence seems to shrink her further into her chair. Michael stands motionless, his hands folded but his eyes burning with attention he has earned. The woman presses forward suddenly, grasping for control. You do not understand. People do not help you unless you show them you are hurting. They ignore you if you look strong. They dismiss you. Her voice rises, not in anger but desperation, a confession masquerading as justification. Judy leans in just slightly, so you chose to look injured, even when you were not. No, she cries, then softer, maybe not at first, but things got worse. The stress made everything feel real. I felt trapped. I felt like nobody believed me. Her words crumble under their own inconsistency. Judy's voice drops into something almost gentle. Truth does not need rescuing. Lies do. The woman's shoulders fold. Her breathing grows jerky, shallow. She looks at Michael, really looks at him, for the first time without accusation. I just needed him to take responsibility, she whispers. For what he did not do, Judy asks. The defendant's eyes glisten. Her chest rises, falls. Her silence is louder than any excuse she has offered. Michael shifts his weight, hesitation flickering across his expression. Your Honor, he says quietly, there's something else I need to say. Judy turns toward him, sensing the emotional shift like a drop in atmospheric pressure. Michael steps forward, voice low, steady, painful. I did not want to bring this up, but I think you need to hear it. Michael's voice trembles, not with fear, but with the heavy reluctance of a man about to open a door he never wanted to touch again. The entire courtroom leans toward him, as if the truth itself is straining to be heard. He swallows once, eyes fixed on the floor, thumb rubbing over the same grease-stained knuckle he's clung to in every moment of tension today. When he finally raises his gaze, it flickers toward the defendant, not with anger but with something far more piercing. Recognition. Your Honor, he begins, voice steadier than his hands, I've seen her before, long before this happened. The defendant stiffens, instinctively, involuntarily. Her eyes widen just enough to betray that she knows exactly where this is going. Judy catches everything. Go on. Michael inhales sharply as if pulling courage from somewhere painful. 2 years ago, my brother owned a small repair shop across town, a place he'd worked at since he was 17. His jaw tightens. She showed up there, same story, same injury, same neck brace. The defendant's breath stutters. That's not you're confusing me with. No, Michael says, his voice cracking for the first time. I remember you. I remember the way you held your neck. I remember the exact words you used. Settle or this will cost you more than you can afford. A gasp rolls through the courtroom. Judy's eyes narrow with surgical precision. She turns to the defendant. Do you deny being at his brother's shop? The woman's mouth opens, but the sound that comes out isn't denial. It's a thin, fractured whisper of someone cornered by her own past. I was struggling then. I didn't mean, things got complicated. Michael presses a hand to the witness stand, grounding himself. My brother paid her. He was terrified of losing everything. He ended up closing the shop a year later because he couldn't recover financially. The room sinks into a hush, so deep it feels like gravity itself is holding its breath. The defendant's facade finally cracks, not with anger but with something far more human, shame. A tremble runs through her fingers, not calculated this time but raw. Judy speaks softly. Why didn't you mention this earlier? Michael sighs, shoulders sinking. Because my brother made me promise not to drag it back up. He didn't want more trouble, didn't want to be part of anything messy. His throat tightens. But watching her do the same thing to someone else, I couldn't stay quiet. The defendant's eyes glisten. She presses her hands together as though trying to hold herself together. Judy studies her with an expression that is no longer just judicial. It's contemplative, almost mournful. "You built this pattern long before today," she says quietly, "and now it's unraveling because the truth always does." The defendant closes her eyes, just for a moment, but in that moment something breaks inside her. Not a mask, not a performance, something real. Judy leans forward, voice barely above a whisper yet sharp enough to cut through the silence. "Tell me, Miss Parker, did you build your entire life around pretending to be hurt?" For the first time since stepping into the courtroom, she doesn't reach for her neck. Her hands fall to her lap, empty, like she's forgotten what they were supposed to pretend to hold. Her eyes remain closed for several heartbeats, trembling beneath the lids, as if keeping them shut might keep her past from spilling into the room. But when she finally opens them, there is no script left in their reflection. No character, no performance. Only the exhausted truth of someone who's run out of lies to lean on. Judge Judy lets the quiet linger. It's not a trap, it's an invitation. The defendant swallows, throat tight. I didn't set out to hurt anyone," she whispers. It got away from me." Judy's voice softens, not sympathetic but careful. "Explain." She looks down at her hands, fingers trembling like they're remembering. All the roles they've played. "The first time I got hurt, really hurt, it was years ago. People noticed me. They checked on me, they cared." Her voice warps around the memory, fragile and frayed. "When I got better, everything went quiet again." The audience shifts, their expressions complicated, not forgiving but no longer purely condemning. "So I exaggerated," she admits. "Just a little at first, enough to feel seen." Michael watches her steadily, jaw tight, but there's no triumph in his eyes. Only a tired sorrow for a truth he never wanted to understand. The woman continues, voice cracking in places she can't control. "And when money came in once, it felt like a solution, like I had finally found a way to breathe." She winces, not from physical pain but from the shame of the confession forming. "But then it wasn't enough, and I kept going, and each time it got easier to pretend." Judy doesn't interrupt. Her silence is permission. "It stopped being about attention," the woman whispers. "It became survival, a habit, a cycle, and after a while I didn't know how to stop without everything falling apart." Her chest rises, falls. "I didn't mean to ruin your brother," she says to Michael, voice trembling. "I swear I didn't. I wasn't thinking about anyone else, just keeping my life from collapsing." Michael exhales, a sound laced with months of frustration, and a flicker of empathy he didn't expect to feel. Judy folds her hands. Her expression is unreadable, but her eyes hold something closer to humanity than judgment. "Patterns like yours don't come from nowhere," she says quietly. "They come from fear, from wounds you never let heal, but fear does not excuse harm, and wounds do not justify new wounds." The woman nods through silent tears. "You built a life around being hurt," Judy says, "and in doing so you hurt everyone around you." Her shoulders sag. The performance, every tilt of the head, every wince, every carefully curated tremble, finally dissolves into something raw and unarmored. "I don't know who I am without it," she whispers. Judy's gaze softens, not in forgiveness, but in recognition of a truth too many people live quietly. "Understanding is not the same as excusing," Judy says gently. And the defendant's eyes widen, bracing for the consequences she knows must come next. The courtroom feels oddly hollow, like the air has thinned, leaving only the weight of everything she has just admitted sitting in the space between every heartbeat. Judge Judy lets the silence settle, not as punishment but as acknowledgement. Confessions have gravity, and this one has shifted the entire room. The defendant sits hunched forward, hands knotted, tear tracks drying unevenly across her cheeks. She no longer looks like the woman who staggered into the courtroom clutching her neck. She looks like someone who has finally run out of places to hide. Judy inhales calmly, then turns to Michael. "Tell me," she says, her tone gentle but firm, "how has all of this affected your business?" Michael's jaw tightens, not in anger but in restraint. It's been bad, Your Honor, real bad." His voice wavers for the first time. "People heard her stories. They assumed the worst. I lost contracts. Long-time customers stopped coming. Some strangers called my shop threatening me, saying I hurt a woman for profit." A heavy exhale moves through the courtroom like a collective sigh. The defendant closes her eyes, the pain in her posture no longer feigned. "I tried to tell people it wasn't true," Michael continues, "but lies spread faster, louder. The more she talked, the more I had to defend myself." He pauses, wiping a hand across his face. "I started having trouble sleeping. My employees were scared we'd shut down, and my brother," his voice cracks, "my brother kept telling me not to make the same mistake he did, but I didn't know how to stop it." Judge Judy nods slowly. The emotional toll is unmistakable, not dramatic, not exaggerated, real. She turns back to the woman. "Do you understand the harm you caused?" The defendant looks up. Her eyes are swollen, glassy, unguarded. "I didn't see it," she whispers. "I didn't want to see it. I thought I was only hurting people who could afford it. Insurance companies, shops, strangers." She swallows painfully. "Not someone just trying to work, not someone's family." Her voice trembles, but she doesn't hide behind her hands this time. Judy's expression softens, not in forgiveness, but in the solemn recognition of a person confronting themselves for the first time. "This is what deceit does," she says quietly. "It always reaches further than you intend." The defendant nods slowly, the enormity of it settling into her bones. "I'm sorry," she whispers, turning toward Michael. "I truly am. I didn't realize what I was destroying." Michael meets her gaze, hesitant, wary, but human. "Sorry doesn't fix everything," he says softly, "but it's a start." The woman's breath shudders, a quiet thank you hidden between, and exhales. Judy straightens, the soft edges of compassion giving way to the firm structure of justice. "Apologies matter," she says, "but restitution matters more, and accountability matters most." She reaches for her pad. The courtroom leans in as she prepares to calculate the consequences she hinted at before. Judy lifts her pen, the faint scratch against paper sharp as a blade. "Let's discuss damages," she says. And the defendant braces for the cost of truth. The scratch of Judy's pen is the only sound in the courtroom, a quiet, steady rhythm that feels more like a countdown than a calculation. Judge Judy sets the pen down with careful precision, then lifts her gaze to the defendant. For a moment, neither speaks. The silence becomes a weight, pressing gently but firmly against everyone in the room. "These numbers," Judy begins, her voice calm but immovable, "are not punishment. They are consequence." The defendant inhales sharply, her hands gripping the edges of her chair, fingertips whitening. She looks less like someone waiting for a verdict and more like someone bracing for impact. "Restitution," Judy continues, "will cover the financial losses Mr. Lawson suffered, lost customers, damaged reputation, decreased revenue due to your accusations." She taps the paper once. "You will also pay for court costs and the time he spent defending himself instead of working." The woman's shoulders collapse inward. Her breath shakes. A tear slips down her cheek, but it isn't dramatic this time. It falls with the soft heaviness of truth finally acknowledged. Judy's tone shifts, becoming deeper, more weighted. "And as for the insurance fraud," she says, "this court will be referring your file to the appropriate civil investigative authorities, not to punish you, but because systems you manipulated deserve the opportunity to address your actions." A faint gasp passes through the audience, but Judy continues without pause. "You attempted to deceive professionals, to coerce an innocent man, to mislead institutions. These choices have consequences beyond this room." The defendant nods slowly, tears tracking down her face. "I know," she whispers. "I know, I didn't realize how far it had gone." "Patterns are like that," Judy replies. "They grow quietly, and by the time you notice, they've already hurt someone." Her words hang in the air, not cruel, not sharp, just profoundly, undeniably true. Michael watches her, jaw tight but eyes softer than before. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His expression alone says everything. The relief of justice finally approaching, mixed with the complicated ache of seeing the person who caused him so much harm begin to unravel for real. Judy folds her hands together atop the bench. "This moment," she tells the defendant, "is not the end of your life. It is a reckoning, and if you choose, it can be a beginning. But beginnings require honesty first." The woman presses a trembling hand to her mouth as a sob breaks free. Not a performed sob, not a strategic one, a human one. The courtroom remains still. No judgment now, just the solemn understanding that this is a turning point, whether she wants it or not. Judy gives her a moment to breathe, then speaks the final transition. "Mr. Lawson will now have the opportunity to respond before I close this case." Michael looks up. His lips part as he gathers the words he has held inside for months. Judy turns to him fully. "Is there anything you want to say before I deliver my final ruling?" His answer hangs in the balance, waiting to reshape the room one last time. "Before you hear the final moment, do you believe people like her can genuinely change, or do they only change when exposed?" Michael hesitates, just long enough for the room to feel the weight of everything he's endured, before he finally speaks. "I don't want revenge," he says softly. The simple honesty in his voice spreads across the room like a settling dust. "I just want to go back to my life, fix cars, take care of my family, and stop being afraid every time someone walks through my shop door." The defendant lifts her head, red-eyed and trembling. His words strike her deeper than any accusation. For the first time, she seems to truly understand the cost of her choices, not as numbers on a restitution sheet, but as pieces of another person's life she fractured. Michael continues, voice steadying as he speaks. "I don't want her to be destroyed. I just need this to end." Judge Judy nods once, her expression shifting into something resolute and unyielding. She sits a little straighter, letting the authority of her seat fill the room with a quiet thunder. "Then let's bring this to its conclusion," she says. The defendant closes her eyes as though bracing for impact, but Judy's tone when she speaks is controlled, deliberate, and not as cruel as the woman expected. "Based on the evidence," Judy begins, "including falsified injury claims, harassment of the plaintiff, and attempts coercion, the court orders full restitution to Mr. Lawson for his financial losses and damages to his business." She taps the paper gently. "You will repay what you cost him. That is non-negotiable." A soft sob escapes the defendant, small but real. Judy continues. "Additionally, your insurance fraud file will be forwarded to the appropriate civil authorities. This court does not handle criminal matters, but those who manage fraud investigations will decide how to proceed." The woman nods, trembling so hard the chair beneath her vibrates. "I understand," she whispers. "Not an argument, not a performance, just acceptance." Judy studies her for a long moment. "I want to be clear about something," she says. "You were not punished today for being wounded. You were held accountable for pretending to be." The defendant's breath catches, a quiet, painful sound that seems to mark the end of the persona she clung to for so long. Judy turns to Michael. "And you," she says gently, "showed remarkable restraint in the face of ongoing harm. Justice today acknowledges not only your truth but your patience." Michael nods, relief softening his features. Judy lifts her gavel but pauses, just long enough to let her final words rest beside the hearts of everyone listening. "Pain," she says, "is not a costume. Do not wear it unless it is real." The defendant lowers her head. Michael closes his eyes. The courtroom holds a collective breath. The gavel falls. A single sharp note of closure. As people rise from their seats, the echo lingers, quiet, steady, unforgettable, because justice today did not roar. It whispered, and the whisper was enough.